Hey guys, welcome back to Trek Yards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockins, and it is the last of the 2017 Discovery reviews. Yeah.
It is. It is the mid-season Discovery finale.
Mm-hmm.
And it is episode 9, and it is called Into the Forest I Go. That's something to be aware of, because it's a thing.
And you did a spoiler-free initial thoughts, which I have not watched yet. I'm excited to listen to, but this is our full breakdown analysis review. But we do a overall thoughts at the start, and I haven't listened to what you think. So, Stuart, what were your overall spoiler-filled thoughts about this episode and the now we've got to wait bit?
All right. I'll let my desk tribble explain.
It's hungry? You're hungry for more?
Sure. I don't see that as a hungry thing. That's more of a happy thing. This is my desk tribble. And he's here this week. Some weeks he's not here. Much like Lorca's. I thought this was the best episode of Discovery so far. I am totally stoked about what's coming up next. And I really loved everything in this episode. It was the payoff from part 1 that I was really looking forward to. 1 or 2 slight disappointments, but that's something that we'll get into, I'm sure. And I am just stoked. I'm happy. I was so excited when I watched it. You gotta check out my spoiler free first reaction video, because it's pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a hard time working out. I think I prefer personally the Mud episode for its style, but I think in quality terms this is the best episode yet, because it actually is about the crew, is about the them working as a team. It's about the story. This is more what Discovery is and can be, whereas Mud was more what the Star Trek version of Discovery could be. So I liked that contextually. But I think this episode is the best of the season so far. But just like with any show, and Babylon 5 is a great example, when they reach the end of the plot line, or at least the end of a big thing, they don't have to waste any time. They can keep ramping and keep showing plot points. This episode, there's no wasted time. Everything's a plot point, and there's payoff. So you feel like it's more, because it is more, And you can really see how much padding and how much weak content there was at the start. But when they get to this point, it's like, damn, this was a strong part of it. And boy, if it started this way, it would be great.
Yeah, exactly. And even watching it on network TV, when I was watching it back on the PVR, it was an hour and 2 minutes long. With commercials.
Yeah, it's 44 minutes of actual content, so it's a little bit less than last week. And like the first couple were like 50s, so it's kind of like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, I found that odd the way they did it. So
we'd probably put more breaks in because it was the season finale, or it was half season. But great, glad we both liked it. And I think we both.
Yeah.
But I went through. I had high expectations because we knew that something was going to happen, and it could have just been a battle, but I was hoping for more. And so to not only hit my expectations, but also be higher, because of the character moments, because of the good dialogue, because of the strong scenes. That was what really got it for me. It was what it could have been, but actually well written. Which they haven't done much, unfortunately. So it's good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, one of the first things I screamed out loud in joy was to see Discovery in space, in orbit, beautiful beauty pass. I've been saying this all along. I've missed the standard flybys that we get in Star Trek. We don't get those with Discovery yet. This was the best one, and I love the colors of the ship and the planet and the moons in the background. It was just such a beautiful opening, establishing shot. It's a wallpaper for my desktop now for sure. I think it's great.
So that's where this episode begins. But it actually begins with a conversation with the Vulcan Admiral, reaching the end of his emotional tether, as it were, really sort of putting that, listen to me, with Lorca saying, get back to Earth, you're not going to engage, these Klingon guys are on their way, you failed. And originally I thought they were talking in the quarters again, but no, it's in front of everybody. It's a public shaming, in a sense, public saying, you guys failed, get the hell back. I'm not looking at any ability for the captain to say, oh, I didn't get that message. No, he's telling everybody, get back, now.
Yeah.
Let them die, because it's...
Well, you're only one ship, and they don't know what's coming, what's on the way. And I thought it was kind of odd for a Starfleet admiral to be like, let everyone on Pavo die. That's fine, you know. But
Although to be fair, can they even be destroyed? I mean, who knows? The radiant life that's biological
yeah, who
energy.
knows? Because we didn't see one stitch of them in this episode. It's one of the downsides for this episode. And he says, jump immediately to Starbase 46.
And so what do they do instead?
Set a course for Starbase 46, warp 5.
Sort of a fast but meander, you know. Don't push those engines that we barely use too far. They're rusty. All that dust on them.
Yeah, and Sarah steps in and says, I don't think the Vulcan or the Admiral understands the peaceful nature of these aliens. Maybe I should speak to him. And Lorca's like, well, you know, if you plan on disobeying a direct order, best not to advertise the fact. So they'll be at Starbase in 3 hours.
Yep.
And he says to Stamets, and this is like Kirk or Spock talking to Scotty in Star Trek 6. Well, you know, what's wrong? How long will it take to fix the engines? There's nothing wrong with the bloody thing. Could take weeks, sir. So he's like, Stamets, is there any problems going on? You know, you should go for a full physical, which Stamets is like...
It's very itchy, sir. Yes,
it's a little itchy.
Yeah.
And Stamets is like, is that necessary? Because he knows that there's problems going on, and he doesn't want Hugh to know. So, but as Lorca said, instead of a paper trail, they need a data trail to show that's why they were delayed. And I thought that was amazingly done. I thought that was awesome.
Again, well written. Whole episode well written. And Lorca, top of his game. He does well when he's not being a bad guy. There's just subtext, you know? Being a good captain with those little bits is better than, you know, let's torture this thing to try and get information. You know, that's a better balance for him. Because he was a good captain in this episode, and, you know, with exploration stuff later on, like he showed the Starfleet captain coming back, you know, wanting to save Burnham as well later on. Again, constant reaffirms of, as if the writers doubling down on, no, he is a good captain. We went a bit too far in that direction. Let's pull it back, as they've done for many, many things. You know, let's pull it back and bring it more in line. But again, at least they're learning from their mistakes, because that you know, takes something to admit. And even if it's meant to be an arc, this was a good part for him. As you say, you know, don't advertise the fact of disobeying orders. But I mean, it's obvious that what they're doing. But as the scene was playing out, it's obvious. You know, if you can jump back to the planet in 1 second, there's no risk to either way. You know, we can. And he said, if you can't find out a way of stopping this, then or detecting the cloak, then doesn't have to say anything. Okay.
And you gotta think too. The guys at Starbase are like watching the little blip on their map, going, "Okay, they're coming." At a fairly good pace too. So why they didn't jump? You know, maybe there's something going on. But I was gonna say, I gotta say the Discovery looks fantastic at warp. I really loved when it kind of and it seemed all stretched out, and it looked really good.
It was good to see it do its job and multiple things, and
yeah.
And although jumping ahead a little bit, the fact they can spore drive inside of warp is pretty damn impressive.
That was cool. I was so impressed. And as soon as you jump, you're out of warp. It's like it's amazing.
Yeah, I was hoping it would do a really cool like a classic Star Trek out of warp and then do something. Just to have, but it would have been two effects. But the fact that they can spore drive out of a subspace bubble into real space.
That's cool, though.
Are you not then stalling the warp drive? Because the warp drive is still on, surely.
Maybe the spore drive overrides it as it starts to do it.
So it just instantly turns off, and that's a, you know, I mean, that's like quite an interesting little thing they could do that. So I guess, but if they're doing different layers of reality, obviously you can do different levels of time and space and subspace. But I thought that was quite interesting. So then you have all the credit stuff, and then you come back and they're saying, right, we vaguely know how the cloak, and they do mention, they officially call it a cloaking device, I believe, without any other words. They call it a cloaking device, boom, that's what they call it. And they explain what it does. It distorts gravitational fields. It's very similar to what the normal ones do. Is that the same as Klingon cloaking devices do? Because I know that's how they develop them, the tech manuals and stuff. So that's the same tech, roughly.
Yeah. And they do say that the cloak has small imperfections, and it has background EM radiation and whatnot. So that's how they're going to use that to their advantage and find out about find out how it cloaks, and be able to detect it. So.
And what did you think? Obviously, they're the heroes of our story, and they're gonna win either way. So we know that's the foregone conclusion. But they have less than 3 hours to do what none of Starfleet can, and we know they're probably going to succeed. How did you feel about that? Were you thinking, oh, it's going to be a plot contrivance? Or were you thinking, of course they're the smartest people ever, they can do it? Like, where were you thinking? Because they're starting to explain cloaks, and they haven't worked out yet. If it's that easy, why haven't they done it yet? I mean, where were you thinking before you obviously learned why, but what were you thinking at this point? Because I sort of had a thought.
I was just thinking that the only reason they're the only ones that can do it is because of the spore drive. They're going to use the spore drive in some way to be able to detect this cloak. That's what his whole speech about, we're the only crew that can do this. Not because they're the smartest crew or anything by any means, but I think just because of the technology they have at their disposal, they have a upper hand. And yeah.
Yeah, we needed the cloaks and the spore drive to be ineffective after the show, because they're not a factor for another decade, and I was hoping it wouldn't be that easy, because otherwise it would be that easy to determine. But I really, really liked their method. It was reasonably clever, and it was an answer to a question that made a lot of sense. It was a very specialist situational thing that, you're right, only Discovery can do. So I really appreciate how they worked that out. And I think they already go through the plan. Their idea is that they're going to put sensors on the Klingon ship, which in itself is something you can never do in a battle. 2 sensors, like get something on board, because you know that they're not going to destroy you outright. So straight away, this is a unique situation. And those sensors, when the ship cloaks, will relay information. And if they use the spore drive to jump around the entire ship, they can work out a bubble of the ship and try and scan the whole thing, and that'll help them do what weeks or days of scans, just passive scans, will do. They're able to concentrate all that information in a full 3D environment and be able to work out exactly the signature of the cloak, and then they can detect it, which is pretty incredible. But like I say, only this one can do it. So I was like, oh damn, great sci-fi reason how we can make this version of the cloak useless. Cool.
Yeah. Because when she first said, analyzing the data is going to take days, I was like, it's like, we don't have days. And then they cut to the sick bay scene, and then they go back to the explanation of 133 micro jumps. It's a 3D snapshot of the Klingon cloaking device or his position. But let's go to the sick bay thing for a second. So he found out that there's a restructuring of the tracks within the white matter of his
medial temporal lobe.
Medial temporal lobe, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a major problem, and then Lorca even asks, have there been side effects? To which Stamets says, nope.
Nope, Captain. And his face is like,
Yeah. Yeah. But then Lorca's like, I want a full report. But give me the report, I'll read it.
Just to me. Just send it to me. No one else. Just to me.
Yeah, I'll actually read it this time. And but then he's like, Stamets, come with me. They go to the ready room. That's where we find out about the 133 micro jumps.
And this is another great scene. Him and Lorca.
Oh yeah.
Really good scene. Very Star Trek. Very. It's situational, but also the grander themes.
Yeah.
And tell us about the scene. I mean, where does it go?
Well, he's like, you're not just a scientist, you're a explorer. That's why you signed on for this mission. You could be at a starbase conducting your research, but you're here. I'd be hesitant about doing 133 jumps that way as well, personally.
Well, he knows it's screwing them over, and they probably haven't done 133 ever, let alone, in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That's constant strain. And since he has to have some sort of mental process about what he's doing, he's having to calculate, he's having part of the jump process, and yeah, not good.
Even though we find out that the jumps are all predetermined coordinate-wise, because you saw the 3D map with the numbered jumps. But I don't exactly know what his involvement is in that. But
he's opening up he's the key to allowing the network to be part of it. But obviously they've refined how they use it now, so they can pre-program certain things, which they can do early on.
Yeah. And this is where we find out Lorca's been accumulating data on each of the jumps, and there's dark pockets, which many parallel universes, and if they keep jumping, they'll be able to figure out how to get there. They can coordinate getting to different parallel universes. So after the war, once this war is done, the journey will still continue, because they have much more to explore than just regular space now. So
that this technology that Lorca's been trying to use and trying to work with, there is more than just a military application. It has this amazing other thing. And I will say they did show this map previously. We assumed it was just a map, but I appreciate it was, referencing and just to hear these men. Lorca was meant to be, and he's always promoted as this broken, this dark man, But to have a little bit of light, a flicker of, well, after the war, I want to go explore a multiverse. That sounds great. He's not going there to conquer it. Why would he? You know what I mean? The Discovery's not a warship, even if it's been used in a time of war. So, really good scene, and obviously the important thing they said is that with more information, we can find the pattern and maybe even find coordinates. So with more jumps.
Yeah.
And they haven't done 133 jumps yet. But with more jumps, they might. So, it's all in the dialogue. It's a well-crafted episode.
Anyway, the next scene, they're coming up with a plan on how to get on the ship, to which Burnham says that the sarcophagus ship, or ship of the dead, as they call it in this episode and the one before, the bridge is 4 times the size of any Federation bridge. As we see, it is quite a roomy bridge. It's quite cathedral-like.
Yeah, they have to be on board. And what do you think of the plan and the fact that it can make cloaks? We win against the cloaks.
I thought it was an interesting take on it. I mean, to actually put sensors aboard their ship to be able to kind of get a fix on the EM cloak thing. I think that was a great idea, but they said that the shields would be down while no weapons and no shields while it's decloaking.
Mm-hmm.
Or while it's cloaked, they couldn't have shields as well. But I don't know if it was just the way they presented it, but the ship decloaks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, minutes later, they beam over. So that was probably happening all at the same time.
It's about 30 seconds. I noted that too. And I kept thinking, why aren't they firing torpedoes then? And this ship in particular takes a long time to decloak. Like, if there's no shields anywhere, fire. Because we see at the end, it's not that difficult to destroy, really. Fire, we win. You know, that wasn't the point of the plot. That was fine. But yeah, it's one of those things where editing is not in the real time.
Yeah, they needed to find out how the cloak worked. Otherwise, just destroying it would be useless, right? So,
sure. Well, yeah, it's a hell of a clever plan. Although I did note that the way they were presenting it, it sounded specifically like the ship had to cloak and decloak to get the information.
It did.
But I was like, but if it's cloaked once, then it's now just invisible. Why would scanning an invisible thing tell you about it? To show the process of the cloak is the important thing.
Well, because the scanners are on board, and they're relaying information to Discovery. That's why the 133 jumps all around it are.
But so I assume it's just because it's out of phase, we can pierce the cloak rather than work out how it works, kind of thing. Like we're able to extrapolate those thousands of bits of information.
The problem I saw and kind of popped into my head for like a second. If they're doing 133 jumps in that small space, trying to find, how do they know they're not going to slam into the ship at least once? Because if you jump and your exact coordinates match the ship, or even just in a cell, materializes inside the ship, then you're both screwed.
Well, they're very lucky Cole. They're very lucky he didn't do anything while they were doing their maneuver. You know, for the first 2 minutes, he's just like, oh no! Keeps happening. Like if he had said full reverse, and then suddenly jumping around, just nothing, like fresh air, it would have been like, oh, orcs, we can't find them now, So we have to reprogram 100 jumps because they've moved 3 inches to the left. Oh no! No, you're right. I mean, it wouldn't have worked if they were moving. And
he was going to jump to warp too.
But we're really jumping ahead a little bit.
We are.
So much plot happens in it. One problem I had. So they're warping and they say they're going to jump back. They say specifically, they can detect that the cloaked, or at least energy signature shows that the cloaked ship is now reaching the planet.
Pavo, yeah.
So they can detect from light years away at warp that the cloaked ship is in orbit of another planet, which we're now very far away from, 2 hours at least away from. If you can detect cloaked ship's presence, just not where they are exactly, but the fact there is a cloaked ship there, these cloaks are not very effective, because then every starbase can detect that a cloaked ship is at least coming. There's no surprise attacks.
I think it's because it was around a planet, and there's certain gravitational distortions and stuff because of the atmosphere or the sun in its system.
It'd still be Earth, Vulcan, any planet you could detect.
You can detect ships coming in, but you don't know where they are exactly. Yeah, that's what I got from that. It was just a vague, there was disturbance in the magnetic pull of the planet or something,
But even a 30-minute warning of their cloaked ships, 10 light years away.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Once you're in the, and they also said in the other episode, they know there are cloaked ships all around them. They just can't get an exact fix, but they know there is still EM falsehoods around them. Like they know how many roughly. They know like it's not the most effective cloak. They just can't lock on. Although I'm sure. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do the whole Enterprise E scimitar thing, because it's even more effective. You know, the perfect cloak, they can't detect anything. They're guessing. At least in this version, they know roughly. But there's one scene we missed, which is when Stamets is now committed to doing the spore drive, and so his other half comes in and is like, yeah, you can do this. I can't talk you out of it, but I'm bloody well gonna be your doctor while you do it.
Yeah, so you wear this cuff. I can treat you while you're in there. And Tilly's like, oh, man, I'm so glad you told him about the side effects. It's like, Tilly! By the way, I got to jump in here and say I love Tilly's little Leia buns, but they're migrated back. They're little tribbles. Then we get this great speech from Lorca about how we're the only crew that can do this. Let's do this. This is the plan we have. We're going to get this done. And I love Lorca as a captain. I always have, even though sometimes he's kind of shady. I do really like him. I do like his attitude.
Well, when he's actually being a captain, he's good. When he's just being him, he's not as good. When he's being a captain, he can...
Well, it's like me. When I'm being me, I'm just a dick. But when I'm being a captain, I'm entertaining.
Yes.
And here's where we see it jump out of warp, which I thought was awesome. I like kind of squealed out loud a little bit when this happened, because this was such a great scene. Seeing it at warp, seeing the little... And then poof, just silent and just... Still, it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, and then it's like a one take shot because it's still the same, same angle as it comes in. Then we get introduced to the Klingons finally, and as you pointed out last episode, or the proof from the preview that Cole has the Giorgio dog tags in essence, and it's actually a really pretty shot of the bridge with the planet outside, the lights coming in. It's actually really nice. It's a lot nicer visuals. The color palette there, and he gives a speech. Oh, sorry, you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, and going back to what you just said, I love the fact that the badges act as dog tags with serial number and stuff. But we see that later, so I do have it in my notes. But you had to beat me to it. I thought that was one of the coolest things about these badges and stuff. So
it makes more than perfect sense.
Yeah.
But he gives a speech, and it's one of those things again, and there is contrast here because again, his very slow speech pattern in the Klingon voice. With the Klingon words, his speech is very underwhelming. It's meant to be as strong as Lorca's, but it's really not. It sort of falls flat, and what he's saying is just like, we'll take their amazing ship, called the Discovery, so it's exactly what the ship is. He knows their reputation, which is fine.
He calls it their most prized and enchanted vessel.
Yes, and he says we're going to board it, raid it, kill them all, and take it. Cool.
Good Klingon plan there. Good.
Yeah, I just kept picturing it as Martok saying it in human speech with his nuance. It would just or even Gowron, It would have been such a good little speech, but unfortunately not. But again, there's contrast in this episode because we see them doing something else later on. So ship decloaks, and I appreciate that we lingered on it for a nice long time. Although then it makes you think, why don't you just fire straight away? Because just fire. But okay.
Because that wouldn't help with the cloak.
I know.
Protection.
I know.
Anyway, then we get to see these life sign pattern simulators that they have, which really cool. We were speculating on our prediction video that these were kind of like force field generators or some kind of like tie into the animated series with the life belts, life support belts. But no, that was really cool. I like that they're emitting Klingon biosignatures, so they can't be detected as a, enemy on board the ship. So that's awesome. And I love the tactical vests, by the way.
Yeah, it kind of. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That was finally revealed what they are. I don't think they were in the previous one where we see them in a dark room. So I was like, oh, that's what they are. Nice. Yeah, I really like these pattern things. Very similar to what the Raven used in Voyager to blend in for the Borg. Same idea. Although I thought at that point they've introduced this technology that you can now flawlessly mask a human or a signature. So what if Vok was implanted with a miniature version that would make his life signs look human? Subcutaneously. Why not? We know the technology exists now. Anyway, so they bring on board, they put the first thing down, and as with all good technology, it says, link to Discovery detected, with nice lights and sounds, and audible to everybody in a 2-mile radius. Wonderful.
Yes. I love how it's waiting for sensor 2, like it's waiting for the Bluetooth pairing. It's like hooking your phone up to something. Going,
It is one of those little things. Yeah.
And then they discover that there's a human life sign on board. And
Stuart,
Ash is,
round of applause for Stuart. He called it.
yes. And to be honest, Tyler looks a little pissed. He goes, "That's not part of the mission." She's like, "Well, I'm not leaving anybody behind." And the look on his face was kind of like, "All right, fine," you know.
Well, he cares about her, and doing anything that goes off mission is like
Yeah.
a risk, isn't it?
Yeah. And then she had 30 seconds to get through that door, otherwise the alarm would sound with the little keypad. And he's like, "Let me," and she's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "I spent 7 months on a Klingon prison ship." I was like, okay.
You spent 7 months learning how to open doors, but you never managed to open one?
Or escape.
I
know,
it's,
right?
It's the worst
It makes-
answer ever.
Oh, it makes sense. You'd probably pop off the thing in a prison too to see if you could figure it out. And once
Yeah,
you
but if
do,
But it was literally stab, 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 open.
I know. I'm just
well, that's
saying, it's worth pointing out.
No, I agree. I actually forgot that happened. Yeah, that's again, they're good at putting these little beats in
Yeah.
to hint at things. That's one of those little moments. And she's like, okay. It's like, there's 10 wires and you hit just the right 6. So it's a red wire, blue wire. Only engineer that was on the ship would know which wire was the right one. So was the door locked to keep the rail in? I assume it was.
Yeah, that was my thinking. And did you notice that the Klingon bodies that were in there were burning? They were smoldering.
Yeah.
So it was like a crematorium almost.
Well, they specifically called it. There's been an emergency in like the burial chamber, so you were right on that as well. Those audits, and also it's very close to the bridge, so I guess it's one of like the preparation rooms. And I guess they were going to do that for the bodies of the people that they killed. They just threw the rail in there, and it's a bit weird, but
Yeah, why didn't they kill her? Because they were going to kill her the last time we saw her.
Torture is fun.
She was beat up, kind of, but
Yeah, a little weird, but yep, she was there,
Anyway.
and the admiral's there, and you're right, she's absolutely alive. Kind of lucky. I'm kind of surprised that she's alive. I'm surprised Rael wasn't doing anything about it. I guess she wouldn't know if she was alive or not, but
yeah, she was still unconscious, and they needed
Right.
the med kit to bring her
Right.
back.
Okay.
But yeah, and then we get Tyler sees Laurel, and you get a flashback. Now,
Oof.
it was a very confusing flashback. Was it torture or was it
Well,
surgery?
I have a ton of stills in the picture that we can go through them a little
Of course
bit.
you do.
And this is one of those things that I was like, oh, I look forward to doing that. But to see, I will absolutely call out the actor that plays Tyler. Really good job in the acting in this one. It's difficult to make these sort of scenes pay off and work, but he did a really, really good job. And yeah, he basically goes into shock. He can't react, and the images we see, pretty sort of torturous. And a highlight.
There's also seem like surgical tools and stuff
Yep.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me thinking, if he's not a Klingon, that's fine. If he is a Klingon, does he know he's a Klingon?
No,
Did they erase
no.
his memory?
Yeah.
So this kind of turned on something in his head. Now he's doubting
Mm-hmm.
what happened, I think.
There's some stuff later on about that as well.
Yeah.
And the most interesting one I thought was that they put cling film over his face, some sort of
Yeah.
plastic. That was a big highlight. We saw it repeatedly. It's like, I know that's a real live torture method, it stops the oxygen, but it doesn't feel like a 23rd century Klingon torture method. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, is that saying something else? Is that you know what I mean? Is that telling us something?
It was after the surgery they used that to seal his face for freshness, so it doesn't get all stanky in the fridge.
No, you're right. I mean, maybe. I just really caught that as a visual. Pretty graphic, although well done. Little, you felt stuff with the guys that was happening. Really good little close of his eyes, and good acting by him. And he basically he has a breakdown, which is great. And Rael's like, "It's you,"
And then she gets stunned by.
and it's great. But I was like, "Oh no!" Poof! Instant. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
And then we learn that the Admiral has worked with people with PTSD and how he's in shock right now. He's going to be of no use to you anytime soon, is what he says to Burnham. And the next scene is the ship's out, and Call is like, be more accurate, pin them down, because the Discovery's just flying by, and he's like looking out the window going, oh.
That's such a little jokey, like, lol, just do it. It's like,
looking in the
Where are
rearview
they?
mirror. Where are they? Yeah. And then they move down a deck, and you see like two helmsmen or tactical people.
9
with-
episodes in, we see the helmets they were promoting,
Yeah.
saying we've got LED special visors that we literally never saw once. Oh, they
Yeah,
are.
well, yeah.
Cool.
Now the next scene is on the bridge. She sets up the next sensor, and
And it's loud and bright, and no one notices.
well, yeah. And as soon as the sensor goes online, the Discovery gets that they're both activated, and he goes, "Okay, let's start this jump thing." And then
Yeah.
the Klingons fire, and all of a sudden, and Call's like, "Where'd they go?" And I love this part with the translator, because this
It
is where the
is.
Klingon, this is where the Klingon acting gets good. You hear both the Klingon and the English the way that the universal translator would work, which I really loved, seeing that application.
Yep.
And then there's an app for that. And then you get to really, as you said before, once they start speaking in English, they can really give the role and the speeches some oomph, some, you realize
Character.
that these are good actors. They're not just, mush mouthing
Spouting
through
guttural tones.
Yeah, exactly. Clearing their throat for like 3 minutes.
And it's nothing, and obviously, it's not that any of the Klingon dialogue has been bad in Klingon. It's just, it's not reached any great height of acting ability or.
The best one is Laurel. She can really deliver her Klingon lines well.
Yeah. Yeah. She can tonally swap
Yeah.
it a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, Cole's more monotone. Even Tuvamal was more like, I am dark, but also like, he was a bit more, but it's unfortunate. And again, I really like Cole because he looks closer to a Klingon. His head is not as big. His costume's always been great. Like, he's a much closer, although very dishonorable, but he's a Duras, so it's fine. That
That's
answers that.
He's also
Oh.
core, though.
Yeah, well, he's a Duras in spirit. Hey, his best friend was Duras when he grew up together on Kronos. It's fine. He learned everything he knew from that good old Duras. Duras Translator was brilliant. It was wonderful the way they, when I do a lot of editing, I fade different audio levels and fade video clips in it, and they fade in, from Klingon speech to human, and then now boom, everything's in human speech in English. I'm like, oh yes, this scene is gonna pop now, and it really did, really, really did.
I gotta say something about this jumping scene. This is
Yeah.
fantastically awesome, by the way. But Lorca says, "Be prepared to fire torpedoes as soon as we jump. Only a scratch. We got people on board, so we're gonna hit them with 6 torpedoes and scratch them 6 times very largely." It seemed pretty excessive, the torpedo usage there, and the damage that looked like was happening to the ship when you have people on board. Like, only scratch them with 6 torpedoes. That's a little excessive, don't you think?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Could just be me.
I mean, the Scimitar took a billion torpedoes that were quantum and didn't do anything apart from sparks. Well, it's weird though that this scene, TOS torpedo sound effect for the most
Yes.
part.
Yeah.
Win should have been and win, but also I looked and there's no visible shield impact on the sarcophagus ship. It's always a fire explosion, so I guess they don't have shields. Like, Discovery does have a shield. All the other Klingon ships have shields, a visible green or blue on the hull.
Yeah,
This did
right.
not. Well, first they cloak. Story-wise, they cloak.
Yes.
Yay! And I love that you see multiple times you see inside the bridge. You see from their perspective what a spore jump is like. The lightning, you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
Lightning is somewhere else. And even when they're cloaking, they do 3 or 4.
That was cool.
I was like,
yeah.
this is really screwing up Stamets, and we get back to that. So yeah, jump from there.
Yeah, and here we find out his heart rate's at 182, and Hugh looks at Tilly and he's like, "How many more jumps?" 96 more. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, this episode finally had some stakes,
Yeah.
and for the most part, it was Stamets. It was, I felt really like I don't want him to be hurt. I want him to be fine, but at the end of it,
And then he says, "There's a clearing in the forest. That's how they go." And I was like, "What?" I think that's a quote from some kind of literary thing.
well, it's probably Alice in Wonderland, isn't it? To link him with Burnham, because if he can see everyone's
could be,
dimensional
could be.
things, then it would make sense, or something. Yeah, and it is worth noting that either before or after this, he says "I love you" to the Doctor, and he
Yeah.
mirrors that later. And I
There-
actually I had a little emotional like stab in my chest, like oh.
Yeah.
Well, they
And
both said that was perfect, and I was like, oh, I feel that too. Oh,
going back to the
Don't
title,
die.
there's actually a quote. It's, "And into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul," and that's by John Moore. Moore. Muir. Sorry, because I looked up the quote. I thought it was interesting because to lose my mind and find my soul, which ties into the end of the episode. So yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I felt bad for him. He was being affected, and he was, again, great acting.
It didn't look like he was using any cognition to actually do anything with the jumps, though. That's why I think they're kind of pre-programmed and automatic.
Probably. He's part of the supercomputer, so I mean, you don't. His conscious is just part of the pain and the discomfort.
That's just I think it's just using his brain as the pathway to the network. Yep. So yeah.
And we'll note that there's a great little couple of shots here that I've put in the notes here where you see, I mean, they're very, very quick jumps, but so quick that literally the ship jumps in, and if you freeze frame it, half the ship is still in the jump blue effect.
Yeah.
And then jumps again. It was a nice little touch of like, we're literally just, riding that network, we're barely leaving. It's
And I love how on the main view screen you see the lightning effect and stuff, but you also see all the receiving sensor data on each side. It's like
because actually doing something, and you felt that.
Yeah, and down in engineering you see jump 86, jump 87. It's like, yeah, come on, let's go. I want to get this done.
And that number was hurting me. I was like, this is not fun. This is not fair. This is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
In a good way, obviously, because it's drama. And again, only episode don't really have stakes for me. And it's Stamets. It's him. It's them being do what they can do. It's which is weird, but it's nice that the microcosm is really just this crew. Yeah.
And then we find out that the Klingon, who's a pretty smart guy, I guess, and good commander, now that this is going on, he wants to go to warp and get the hell out of there, which would kind of screw up their process.
Yep.
And Burnham's like,
yep.
Shoot the guy and start a little schmozzle on the Klingon ship so that they don't go to warp, which is awesome.
Very well played.
Yeah. Because if that wouldn't have happened, their plan would have basically been screwed.
Well, they would have had, 80 of 130, so it would have taken, hours more days. Yeah, wouldn't have been as effective, but yeah, I get everyone was reasonably smart in this episode, which I appreciated. It shows something good. Although it's kind of impressive that she, shoots, comes out, is like, I just want to talk, puts the stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
Really confident in what she's doing in the crew, which I like. Like, she's putting everything on the line, I
love how she said this is, the universal translator is proof of our desire to communicate. And he's like, no, it's just another way for you to strip our culture from us. And okay, then. That's why you're hearing Klingon from me, because I want you to speak English.
And then, she's like, I, want to talk. Why should I listen to you? That was...
Oh, sorry. Just cleaning my teeth.
Yeah, that's good. It makes sense.
It's perfect for that. I never really realized it, but yeah, I got a few of them. I got a few different.
And
deltas.
We know Klingons need tooth sharpening and cleaning, and that's a whole thing. It's an industry for them. We know that. And then she has the big reveal of, I am the one that killed Kuvma, because you weren't here. You weren't part of this battle. You weren't part of this war.
How do you know that? Because I was here. Oh, well then.
Yeah, that was a really nice way of framing you are not really somebody worthwhile. Because when this all went down, you just stood in after the fact and took charge, but you were not really here. That was a nice little beat. I like that.
Yeah. Then we see Ash and Cornwall, and she's like, come on, I need help. I can't really move much with my legs being paralyzed. Yeah. I know I told Burnham that you're going to be in shock for a while, so you'd be no use to anybody. But God damn it, I need you right now.
Yelling does work. I'm a doctor, I know. It
can snap people out of things. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, she takes out a few guys, as we said, stuns them. And then he's got another series of flashbacks, and the last thing he sees is him and Burnham kissing. Yeah. And that is enough to push. He pushes her out of the way, and just as he falls, it hits right behind him. And that was a disintegration beam. That wasn't a stun one.
Yeah.
So he could have been gone. Mm-hmm. And then he takes out a Klingon right away with one of their disruptors. And I love the disruptor effect. It just looks painful.
Yeah. It's a mini explosion of their body.
Yeah.
But and disintegration at the same time. It's a very neat effect. And really makes you think, God damn, these guys aren't playing.
Mm.
It's like every shot is to destroy your body from reality. Yeah, okay, guys.
It disrupts the body.
Hey, we don't take prisoners, so we disintegrate every single person we ever see. Except Georgia, because, we want to eat her. So yeah, then he's like, take her to the brig, and as in back on the bridge. And Burnham's like, no, fight me, like
prove your worth. Prove your worth. It's kind of nice to see honorable Klingons for a change.
Yeah.
Because he was in the power position. He didn't need to do that. He could have just had her thrown in with, the other rubbish down in the burial room.
Or shot her. Or anything, yeah.
Well, he was going to use her as a bargaining, or as a way to discredit T'Kuvuma's followers. Because, the person...
And note, he said their Messiah, which was a nice touch.
Yes.
It's like, he still doesn't give a shit about those guys. Yep. He's in it for himself, to become leader of the Klingon Empire, as he says in a few minutes. But no, he instantly takes up the challenge. I like that. He's like, yeah, of course I will. Give you a knife. Yeah, fight me, girl.
I got
head
you.
of High Council, Before there's a High Council, I killed everyone. I'm here.
Yeah.
Stab you. Yeah.
And I love Lorca here. They're like, we should warp out of here and buy some time until we've, the 5 minutes is up and we've got this algorithm. He's
they did the jumps. They can pause now, but now they say we have to stay here. And, we shouldn't stay here because we can't necessarily jump. We shouldn't necessarily jump.
And Lorca's like, why aren't they firing?
Yeah.
And I love that. And he's like, no, we're gonna stay here until our people are back. Which, I love that. Like you said, when Lorca's a captain, he's a good captain.
Yeah.
So I really, and I've said since the beginning that I like Lorca, even though he's kind of an asshole sometimes. But
yeah, he was. Yeah, they had, again, well written as well. But yeah, he's like, we're gonna stay. We're gonna work it out. We've got 5 minutes to this algorithm allows us to take cloak ships. I'm like, cool. These computers, it's a fast computer. Why not? Awesome. Yeah. Then we get more fighty. It's a fine fight, but it's nice that neither side looks like they're winning. You can tell she's using her Vulcan martial art training, and he's using his Klingon kill you training. But it's a quite well balanced fight for what it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this heroic fight either. It was like he wins a bit and then she defends and then she's just buying time. She's obviously parrying. It's like a lightsaber fight. She's working out all maneuvers and just trying to last longer. She's not trying to kill him or anything. It's just
Yeah, it's just a matter of going on the defensive instead of the offensive. Yep. Just block his blows. Don't worry about... Yeah, exactly. Anyway, then they find the ship. They lock onto it, send it to the transporter room. And Tyler's like, I got 2 people with me. Well, I got Admiral Cornwall with me, 2 to beam. And then he's getting beamed out. And why do people in Star Trek think it's a good idea to jump onto people that are beaming? I would think that'd be very dangerous. The thing that jumped to my mind, it's like my second viewing of this, I'm like, maybe later they're going to find traces of Klingon DNA in Tyler, and it's all going to be explained away by this transporter incident. Oh, it's just some mess up with the transporter. You got a little bit of Klingon DNA on you there. Anyway, and then Burnham jumps and lets go of the Metcalf and then beams out. I thought that was really cool. Even though moving while beaming in TOS is kind of not a thing.
It's very 09 of them, where they both can and can't do it at the same time.
Yeah, but even Enterprise screwed up that
with running
continuity with him running while he beamed. You can't do that,
Well, it's safety margins, isn't it? You can do it. They're just lucky.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, I could go into the whole explanation why, but I'm not.
We have an episode on it. It's one of the early ones.
Watch our transport.
But that was actually a nice, elegant moment. I like that, and it's because it shields down, and you can imagine not T'Kuvma, the not T'Kuvma character was like, "This is not good," and then Lorca's like, "What does he say? Target that explosion into fire." Wait, wrong movie.
And I love how on the bridge of Discovery at this point they're like Admiral Cornwall as well, and Lorca's like, all right, cool. Just the look on his face for a split second was like, I'm all right, fine.
No, wow, it's
and then he
double
gets right
whammy.
to the point. Yeah,
it's oh no, and a Klingon prisoner. Oh, 2 for 1. But
yeah,
it's the split second before he's like, oh,
and even earlier when Cornwall says to Tyler, "What's your mission?"
Yeah,
he's like, "Well,
Lorca sent me.
Lorca sent us to put these sensors." And the look on her face was kind of like, that crazy bastard, but I'm glad he's here. It's one of those. Yeah. So
100%.
Yeah.
So he targets them, and they fire a slew of photon torpedoes, and in quite a they're actually doing this moment.
Yeah.
And it's actually a surprisingly good payoff. Torpedo, really sexy pullback as the glass shatters and breaks, and the explosion, and the guy's like,
and ship go boom.
Boom boom.
It's interesting too because right before that happens, he puts his drops in or his little
Yep.
because he wants to see it, and he
Yeah.
steps. He clears his eyes and steps right up to the view screen.
Yeah.
Fire! I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
All was
wondered-
missing was the Kirk's fire. Yeah. Anyway.
I was wondering why I did that, but yeah, it's because they understood the character. He can't deal with quick light changes, so better do his temporary fix for it, so he can actually enjoy the moment, which is what he did. Where he mercilessly killed every single person on that very, very large ship.
And it was so nonchalant. He just turns around and starts walking to his ready room. When Burnham and Tyler come on the bridge, it's this huge explosion behind him. He's like, "Yeah, I did that." That's a Michael Bay moment. Michael Bay directed that scene, I guarantee you. What did you think of this payoff, though? This whole, since episode 1, this whole storyline with the Messiah and the call, and it's like done. It's like, hey, we're done now.
It
Move
was
on.
Great. Great, yeah.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was a great moment. I'm surprised they killed Cole. That was more what I was surprised about. Like, we know that they're closing the Klingon arc by the end of the season. I mean, to be fair, this kind of gives me all the impression that they really are the radicals. Like, it really was a small subset of weird-looking Klingons from, like, 2 or 3 houses that took power, that were the radical, it was that sort of play. So when they die, the push to create that same sense of war goes away, because it really is those few Klingon jihadists that want to do this.
Yeah.
They happen to take command, or the Hitler. As soon as Hitler dies, a lot of people under him don't really want to do what he's doing. They're just following the guy. So it kind of gives that impression, like, okay, the big guy's gone, and I'm sure for the Klingons, even if you don't love the Torchbearer in the same way that the original T'Kuvma sect did, that ship is a symbol. It started the fire, started the light. It had the cloak.
We didn't
it brought-
start the fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. Sorry, I don't do karaoke. There's no proof.
Stuart does.
There's no proof. You're going to edit that part out. See?
Reach. So destroying it was like a symbolic
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, great. I mean, ballsy for what it was. It's good.
And just focusing on this scene for one more second. I love seeing the dog tag. Giorgio Philippa, I can't even say it. Blah.
Philippa, yes.
SC, Starfleet Captain 0025, and then her serial number. I thought that was great because now Burnham feels kind of vindicated. She's got her revenge. She got the badge back. She's kind of held herself up in Captain Giorgio's eyes, or her, because she got that will from her that said she was so proud of her and all this, even though she kind of mutinied and started a war.
Kind of. Yeah.
So I thought that was a great redeeming aspect of this episode. She got some kind of closure for that storyline, and it feels vindicated now in Giorgio's eyes, even though she's dead, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, she was able to rescue the spirit of Giorgio. Like, she was able to go back. She didn't want to leave at the time. She was able to go back, finish what she started, which was fire first, and sort of proven right, in a sense, in the grand scheme, that they were out for war. The ship was going to do bad things. The ship was the key to it all. And she was able to be part of the team that, very much part of the two that was able to unlock it. So, she might have been one of the instrumenters of the war. Not start the war, but instrumenters. It's different. Like T'Kuvma was instrumenters. But also she was one of the ones that helped find I'm sure she helped Saru with the calculations to platinum jumps and stuff. So she was part of all the different steps to at least stop this problem. Or maybe. So next scene, the Admiral's talking on a view screen on a monitor. Yay! Budget save.
I was going to ask if you noticed that there was no full body hologram here. I like that. I like it was just on the view screens. There's actually 2 of them in there, and I thought that was awesome. Don't get me wrong, the full body hologram is great, but you almost expect Darth Maul to step in behind them. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like not our universe.
Well, the whole thing isn't really our universe. Yeah.
And why was that? Why were they not using holograms in this scene?
Because they're getting close to TOS.
We've dropped that more advanced technology. Now we're going to black and white tube TVs.
In stereo.
Stereoscopic.
Yeah. So what's great about this scene is that he's like, well done. I should have sort in a subconscious subcontext. I should have trusted you sort of way. I'm gonna give you a medal. And he's like,
Well, no, the whole scene was awesome because it's like you're on the edge of your seat because you know what Admiral Cornwall was gonna do. She's gonna relieve Lorca of command. She's back at Starbase 88. So Lorca,
emergency medical shuttles. They sent a shuttle straight away in warp.
Yeah.
It got boom, fine. That's awesome. Great.
yeah, and Lorca, you can see him waiting for it. He goes, because of your actions, and we want you back here.
ASAP.
What you've been doing hasn't gone under the radar. We've noticed.
Yep.
And he's like leaning on his desk, like, and then it's like, we're giving you the Legion of Honor, and I'm looking forward to shaking your hand in person. And Lorca's kind of like, so she didn't say anything. Huh. Maybe me being a renegade asshole pays off after all.
Or what really happened is they're just trying to get him back so they can't let him on board again.
That's what I thought too, but it seemed kind of...
No, that's the obvious context there. It's the chain of command talking, and
but
he's
it's a
thinking,
Vulcan.
I
It's a
can't go
Vulcan.
back.
It's a Vulcan delivering that. Vulcans don't lie. That's kind of
but they can
duplicitous of a Vulcan.
Yeah, but he's not lying. He's saying, I'm sure he's going to get a medal, but also then relieved of command. Like, he didn't say anything wrong.
Well, honorable
He's
discharge. Yeah.
Well, no, or even just help. I'm sure the lady would give him all the help he needs. But, like, that really is the... I mean, you can tell his face, like, I can't go back now. Like, we've won. And since the war, like, the Spore Drive, the whole mission of Spore Drive will be different now. It doesn't need me, because we've got it running, all this thing. And we've proved it can be a very tactical advantage. It destroy the big ship. I've done my job. My crew can take it from here. Saru could take command or whatever. Like, he's like, I can't go back now. Which leads in. Which is a great, like, and you can feel that. There's this it's like, oh, my life is now...
Yeah.
I'm this last bastion of this. I have to hold on to it. Wonderful little moment.
Mm-hmm. And then we see Burnham and exiting a turbo lift. Now, did you notice the little nugget there? There's a little background Easter egg. It says Cadet Decker to the ready room.
Oh, the audio. Yeah, I wrote that down.
Yeah, which could be Will Decker.
I might be. I mean, he was a captain. Was he a captain by TMP?
Yeah. Aaron Harvey worked it out. He would be 32, the same age as the actor. If he was in this time period, he'd be 18, which could be a cadet. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's a nice little nod, nice little Easter egg.
And he was the one that was helping to refit with more advanced warp technology.
Yeah.
So he learned new technologies on the Discovery.
Maybe
not the right technology, but so. And in this one we introduce. So the next scene is Michael Burnham goes to see Ash Tyler, and we get the introduction of the canon bathrobe, the canon Star Trek bathrobe. I have a specific picture of it. I was like, oh, bathrobes are canon now.
Yes.
That was funny. So you can have cosplay.
Yeah. And here we find out that Tyler basically feels ashamed for what happened. She's like, we stopped the war, we did this, we did that. He's like, no, you did this.
Yeah.
Because I think he feels I think he's confused now, because I think if he is a Klingon agent, he might have got a glimpse of that, and he's kind of like, what? I don't remember my life before, or whatever. I don't know. Or he's just ashamed for being in shock and having a nervous breakdown and not being able to help her on her mission.
It's multiple leveled, and this scene's interesting because it's a very he repeats his dialogue a little bit, but it's so well played. Like, you feel the tangible, everything he's feeling, and he's trying very slow to admit to her what the situation really was, but it's very slow. She's egging it out of him, and you can tell, even though looking at his face, her face is saying, "Tell me more." Like, it's a very personal scene, and you still get her Vulcanness, you still get each of their characters shining through, but it's a very, very well written scene, and he admits some pretty interesting stuff.
That he encouraged the affections to buy himself time, and to, he survived because of that. Like, that was his explanation. I needed to survive, so I bought myself time. I encouraged it. So it's a great emotional scene, and I actually really like Burnham, after this scene.
Yeah.
Her character's really starting to grow on me, even though I really didn't like her at first.
Well, they're improving how they write her, and she's improving her performance.
Yeah.
It's and I will say, context is everything, and when he said, when you say 7 months, you picture 7 of the calendar months, but the guy said I'd survive past day 1, day 9, day 97. Suddenly thinking, oh, that's a lot of individual days.
I was
you
there
know,
for 267 days or something. He said.
like that sounds far worse to me than 7 months. You know?
Yeah, well,
Suddenly
absolutely. And as a
brings it
prisoner, that's what
down.
you do. Every day you mark on the wall, like, how long you been
Yeah.
there. And, yeah.
Although to be fair, he didn't know how long he was there, so that kind of he didn't know. He specifically did not know how long.
Until
it had
after
been.
the fact, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Once he got
true.
debriefed, he would know exactly.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great emotional
scene.
scene. And, he ends it by saying, it was all worth it because I'm here now with you. And I've found my
Yeah.
peace right here.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Which is parroting what she said in the previous episode. All I want is one moment of peace.
Yeah.
He was saying, I found that peace in my life with you.
Yeah.
Which obviously triggers what she was feeling. So yeah, really good scene. A lot of strong scenes this episode. They really
Yeah.
did.
Speaking
Good
of strong
job.
scenes, the next one's fantastic. Not only are the visuals great, looking out at the
Oh.
planet from the shuttle
Yes.
bay,
Beautiful.
but this whole thing, the respect that Stamets seems to, or that Lorca seems to show for
Lorca.
Stamets.
Yeah.
They were going to give me a medal. Can you believe that? I told them to give it to you. To which Stamets is like, you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
It makes me really like Lorca even more. This connection he has with Stamets, and I don't know if Stamets is really surprised by it. He seems kind of shocked at one point, but at the same time, he feels like, yeah, this is something that, it's not really shocking to me. So,
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how Stamets was. I was like, wow, he actually survived this with himself intact. I was thoroughly impressed in him as a person.
yeah.
He's able to cope. I think his mental resolve to this is the final beat. Obviously, he says in the scene, this is the end of my jumping days. And Lorca's like, oh, we're gonna walk back to Starbase. He's like, no, I can jump us back. He's like, no, you don't have to. He's like, oh, I want to.
Yeah, we got to get the
And
crew
then
back safely because their Klingons are on their way.
Yeah, and then Lorca's like, but after that we can explore, and Thingy's like, no, I mean you guys can try, but I need to be fixed because I'm really ill.
Yeah, I need to see how the best.
So thanks for the
doctors-
opportunity, guys.
Yeah.
But that's my last jump ever, and I was like, oh, there's one more jump. We know what's gonna happen. Yay!
Yeah, I know. But I like the way he explained that scene, though. Like, I need to see the best doctors. I need to know find out what's going on with me. A lot of that was probably Hugh's influence, going, I don't want to lose you. But I think Stamets realized after those 133 jumps that this is not good for him.
Well, again, they've won the scenario. They all deserve the respite. 'Cause this is a really good job in murdering all those thousands of Klingons. Again, it's such a it's so weird to celebrate that, but
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really strong scene, and the respect, like I said, respect is key. The respect in the scene, and to see the evolution. And Stamets has grown more than anyone else. It's really, really interesting, and how they play it, and
Yeah. And
again, Lorca's not being a bad guy. I think he's
Yeah.
still playing him a little bit, and you can see later on there's more of that. But
Yeah.
they're both growing as people, which is good.
And I love the way that Stamets explained his experience. He said, I've seen these stars through a lens that no
Yeah.
one else has access to.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've seen things that
Yeah.
no one else will see. I need to get help.
And I'm still me. I've had the adventure.
Yeah.
I can have more as me, which is great. 'Cause at the start he was saying it's such a rush, like a drug to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But now he's like, I've had my fill of the things going in my the injecting the things in my which is interesting, the metaphor of that. So great scene.
So the next scene is another first in Star Trek history, and I was wondering because as it's shown on the Space Channel here, which is network television, and it's said at the beginning of each commercial break or at the end of each commercial break, it always says this show contains violence and is not suitable for younger audiences. But this one said nudity, and I'm like, okay, sure. And it didn't really register at first, but it's worth being said here that there's Klingon sex and Klingon boobies and Klingon nipples.
Canonical, what they look like. At least in this incarnation. Yes, we get flashback Klingon sex with, although a very human-looking bed.
Yeah, the Klingons don't like their comfort. Why would they have like silk sheets and?
Yeah, and no lighting. I feel like that was his nightmare. It was a. I felt like
A romanticized version of the actual events.
Using his environment to create something new, or just how fractured his brain is. because it's a very, very well shot scene, and you got a real sense of actually how much Laurel is enjoying it, which is really interesting. Yeah,
And it's worth saying
we'll talk about it more later.
We're going to do a video on this whole, not just the relationship between the two.
Well, that brings us into, he wakes up and he goes to her. She's in their future version of the prison of the Shinjo. She's in this new prison garb, whatever that is. And obviously she's now a prisoner. And I specifically called this as a plot point, although not the way it was done, but I called this because it's really interesting to have her on the ship. It's very, very, very interesting. And it's probably, you can tell it's part of her plan or the greater plan, but this is a really good plot point to have her on the ship because she was the best Klingon and obviously positioned her to be the best. And she's the only Klingon we know now with any sense of character. So to kill her off would be pretty hefty. And the most interesting is that he walks in, goes to his knees, says, "What did you do to me?" She says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll never let them hurt you." And he's looking at her like, "I've been conditioned. I don't know who I am anymore. What's going on?" Not hate, not love, not lust. What is the face? What is her face? What is this?
It's, and the last time we saw her and Vok together, she wanted to take care of him. She wanted to put her neck on the line for him.
Oh, it's
and,
very interesting.
And that line, "I'll never let them hurt you," sounds like she's talking to Vok. And then she ends it by saying "soon." That's it.
It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
It's a very underplayed scene. There's a lot there. Yeah, it's great. So the next scene is they're going to use a spore drive to get home. Lovely little scene with Stamets and his guy friend, guy more than friend. they kiss. It's lovely. It's again very underplayed and very close and personal. It's basically just one long continuous shot as well, or the same.
Yeah.
It's very nice, simple, connective. You feel the connection there.
Yeah, and I love. Excuse me. Yeah, and I love Lorca on the radio saying, "Shall we dock this weary vessel?" Like,
that's great.
We're at the end of our mission. Let's get this done.
Yeah. That's a Kirk line, and it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we get this lovely scene with those two, and how Stamets is saying, there's a Caecilian opera house on one of the moons near Starbase 47 or 46, whatever Starbase it was. I'll be your date, and that was very touching and nice because remember he started the relationship by Hugh was singing opera, and he insulted him because it was so bad.
And told him to stop. Yeah. Oh, that's good. I forgot about that. That's nice.
So it was a nice tie into that, and well done. So the next scene's very interesting because we're up on the bridge and we see Lorca with his console. He sets a little destination and says it's time to go home.
And in fact, it's hard to tell the episode because they do play it so fast, it's so small, but if you freeze frame it as we can, and look, it actually says Lorca override, destination unknown. So it is confirmed who does what for this last beat. But if you watch it first time, you don't necessarily know that.
And yeah, I paused mine last night too, and I wrote down a whole bunch of information, things he punched in and everything. We're going to do a full episode on that because it's worth talking about. This one's running a little long, so anyway.
Good episode. It deserves to be talked about.
And, we're going home. Is he just saying that for the sake of the bridge? Or is he saying that because he wants to go home to where he's from? Anyway.
Good lines. Yep.
It's such a Starfleet captain thing to do, because when I saw him punch in the console, the coordinates, I'm like, where's he sending them? And then it's like, let's go home. I'm like, okay, well, that's a Starfleet captain thing to say.
Because, he's not the one that should be doing them. So the fact that he was doing them was a bit weird. But the Helm's officer does the coordinates normally. He stands up and says, do this, do that. So the basic, we can rush through the end. Simply, they jump. They don't jump properly. The ship jumps in two halves and then flips back together. Everything goes haywire. Stamets goes blind and almost comatose, sort of thing.
Yeah, and Talisa said it was an incomplete navigation sequence.
Yes.
And there's white matter hyperintensity in Stamets, and his eyes go all white. And he says, so many. I can see them all. Infinite permutations.
It's magnificent.
Yes.
And then they confused the best scene of Saru is like, I don't know where we are. What? Yeah. I'm good at my job. I don't know where we are. Well, and then
and Lorca says, "Where's our starbase? Is that Klingon wreckage I see?"
Yeah.
So is the starbase destroyed? Did they actually go to the right starbase and it's just destroyed because it's a parallel universe or something, or are they somewhere totally different?
You zoom out and wreckage and cut. And there's so much to talk about for this ending, guys. I know you've watched an hour and something to get to this point, but it's, it's parallel. It's something. It's great. It's teased. It's gonna be fantastic. We'll talk about this. Tune in this week to find out all of our individual thoughts.
Lots of little videos coming up. Yeah.
But I hope you guys enjoyed this full look. Stuart, closing thoughts and out of 10.
Awesome episode. Best episode of Discovery so far. I would give it a solid 9.8 out of 10. The point 2 is just we didn't find out what happens with the Povanians and Pavo.
And obviously, it's worth saying that's contextually to this show. So a 9.5 of TNG is probably going to be better than 9.5 out of this show.
Yes.
That's not 9.5 equal to all Trek, but it's just in the Discovery verse of the Discovery episodes.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Great written episode, action packed. I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time, enjoying it.
Yep.
It's kind of a lull at the end where we get into the Michael and the Burnham and Tyler scene.
But it was good.
But it was very good character building, so I didn't mind a little bit of a lull. And yeah, absolutely awesome. Worried about Stamets now, damn it. And interesting to see where they are. I think they're in the right place, but in the wrong universe.
And theoretically in the wrong time, if you look at Enterprise and how the universes can be at different points in timelines, which would be even funner. Yeah, I think this is what we hoped for in terms of everything. In terms of the acting, the pacing was very solid. CG was good. The acting was, like I said, good. The fact that it felt like an end of season, yet there's more. We called it there'd be a big cliffhanger. They're actually very minimal about that, but they gave enough information on parallel universe. So they say it in the episodes. We know it's parallel something. Maybe not the mirror universe, maybe a mirror universe because it's just alternate, whatever. Yeah. But very, very strong episode, best of the season. Sad that we had to wait this many to get to this point, but again, every first season, every show is weaker than every later show. And if the next 6 or 5 is good as this and keep the strong pace, strong whatever, then wading through all the mediocre first 2/3 is going to be worth it for the final 6, I think. And I'm excited to see where they take it and see it conclude. So well done, guys. Discovery. This is living up to your potential.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And make the Klingons speak English if you ever show Klingons again, because the babies are dead, so it's fine. And L'Rell will speak English from now on because she needs to. So yay.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, 9.5 for me. I don't think it's I feel like I haven't got to be sort of. It can't be close to a 10. So I'll say 9.5, but best so far in every category.
Awesome. Yes, Desk Tribble approves. So, anyway, guys, like the video if you liked it. Put your comments down below. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to click all of our social media links down in the description below. We got Facebook. We got a whole bunch of other cool stuff.
Yep.
And there's ways you can support us to help us with the channel as well.
Yes, we rely on our Patreon, which is a lot of YouTubers use it. It's a monthly donation scheme. You put a little bit each and every month, part of that community, and it goes directly into producing and funding this show and both of us to spend our time, my full time, your part, and a bit time, because honestly that's what we both do, to make this show, to make all the shows, and to know that we can produce more shows, because we're never just content with what we do. We always have more plans. And the more support we get, the more we can do. It's as simple as that. So join that community, help us out on Patreon, even $5 a month. Like I say, if 10 of you give that, makes a difference. Or if you want to give 20, 15, whatever, all makes a huge difference. And we look forward to the next set of Discovery reviews in January. Can't wait. But Christmas in between, so excited for Christmas. And I'm asking for both the Orville and the Discovery books and stuff, so I'm going to be able to do lots of reading and stuff over Christmas.
Absolutely. So until next time, everyone, I'm Captain Foley.
And I am Connor Cockins, and we're still in the Prime Universe. It's fine.
I was going to say I don't know where we are. Don't do that.
Oh
well.
Well, maybe I'm a different version of me. Maybe I'm trying to tell you we're still in Prime, so that you're confused when you jump. Da da da! Cliffhanger.
Bye, guys.